This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It sure is great being here helping you with playing the guitar. This is lesson 29 in this mini course on fingerpicking. So it's actually the second to last lesson. We're reaching almost the end of this mini course. It's been great. I hope you've been having a lot of fun learning more fingerpicking patterns or learning more about fingerpicking, getting better at playing the guitar. Now, in these last couple of lessons, I'm going to talk about different ways and kind of go over different ways we can create variations on the patterns that I've already covered. So in those first 28 lessons, I covered a lot of great patterns, went over some different techniques, some different approaches, different ways you can do patterns with the right hand as we're playing chords. So I want to talk about variations because you could take any one of those patterns and create numerous variations off of it. And so that's kind of fun. I create patterns, so there's no reason that you couldn't create patterns or sort of explore some on your own, decide what you like for a given song or just for a given technical exercise. So we'll go ahead and dive in here. Now, the first thing, or there's really just two things kind of to keep in mind as you create patterns. One is you need sort of a rhythmic plan, a rhythmic idea. And usually you'll see from most of the ones that we've done, they're very eighth note based. So we've had lots of them that are just straight eighth notes for the whole measure, whether it's in 3/4 or 4/4 or another meter. We also sometimes do things with triplets, one and a two and a, still at the eighth note triplet level usually. Now you could create something more. Sometimes we have quarter notes intermixed with those, and you could get more elaborate with the rhythmic devices. But I just kind of kept to the standard sort of arpeggio fingerpicking pattern thing that usually works well for any song that we want to do that with. So I stuck with that, especially as you're developing. But you could get syncopated even in the rhythm or change the rhythm up a little bit. For what I'm going to demonstrate here today, we're just going to stick to that 4/4 time with all eighth notes. So I'm using a couple of those patterns, and that's where we are. But you start out with that rhythmic plan, and it just needs to sort of feel good. And the eighth notes is sort of a level that usually keeps things going. You could get into the 16th note level, you could get things going faster, but generally the patterns that have just sort of the fluid texture of those eighth notes work really great. The other thing to keep in mind, so besides staying in the meter and having sort of a set rhythmic plan that's going to work, is that you alternate the fingers. So having fingers repeat back to back doesn't work very well. I suppose it can be done and has been done and is done, but most of the time it's best to keep alternating our fingers. So if we pluck with the index, we have three other options really. We can go to the thumb after that, go to the middle after that, go to the ring after that. If we pluck with the middle, we could go to the index or the ring or the thumb. Or if we pluck with the ring, we got the thumb, the index, the middle, we can change it up. So the first patterns that I covered in this whole mini course was P-I-M-A, Pima. I'm doing this on E minor. And we did that twice per measure. Then we looked at how you could go the other way, P-A-M-I. We did that twice per measure. And then we looked at how you could actually alternate P-I-M-A, P-A-M-I, and create a pattern like that. So just to demonstrate with that one, if we created some variations, some different ones, if I went thumb, index again, just like I had done P-I-M-A, I could also, instead of going P-I-M-A, I could go P-I-A-M, and that creates a nice one. So that's a variation. And I could do that twice per measure. I've got a chord progression down here, C, A minor, F, G, to demonstrate these on, or to do these with. So I could do C, C-I-A-M, P-I-A-M. It's a nice one. Or in that second half where I had done P-A-M-I, or that next pattern, instead of that one I could go P-M-I-A. And I could have done P-A-I-M, P-A-I-M, so I could just change it up. But here I've got another variation where we're actually starting with the middle finger instead of the ring finger. Thumb, middle, index, ring. So I could do thumb, middle, index, ring. there's going to be a handful of options that are available using sort of this format of thumb, pluck with a finger, pluck with a finger, pluck with a finger, especially if we're trying to use all three fingers. Maybe you get into patterns where you're not going to use all three fingers. P, M, A, M, P, M, A, M, or P, M, I, M. Or where we got into when we started doing two plucks with fingers P, I, and M and A together, I. So I could do P, A, I, M together and back to A. So there's ways to continually build different patterns. But what I've written here is thumb, middle, index, ring, which is a great one. So if we did that one with this progression, we'd have ready and C, like that. Now what works great, as we saw, is to alternate in a measure between the two. So I put the two together, we'd have P, I, A, M, P, M, I, A. So if you get that going on an E minor, P, I, A, M first, if you get comfortable with that, and then you get comfortable with P, M, I, A, then you can put the two together. P, I, A, M, P, M, I, A, P, I, A, M. Once I'm comfortable there, and I'm doing everything in standard position here, but once I'm comfortable there, we can go down to the C chord and do with this progression, plugging that in. Okay, let's do this pattern twice per chord. So it's as if we had two measures per chord. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. So that's a great example of how that would work. Now we could do that one time per chord. We go 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Just like that. Now, if we had more than one chord per measure, we could do one half for the first chord and the other half for the second chord, that sort of thing. Another example of creating a different variation. Early on we played P, I, M, I, A, I, M, I. That was one of the patterns we worked on. So we've got these running eighth notes. We start with the thumb pluck. It's important to start with a thumb pluck. Whether the thumb is pinching with all the fingers, or whether it's doing 2 or 3 together, whatever it is, we need to start with a thumb pluck. That's sort of a third important piece of creating these patterns, because that's how we hear the context. We get the bass note and hear the context of the chord. So it's important to start out that. So if we left that one there, and we went to the ring, we could go ring, middle, ring, index, ring, middle, ring, instead of P, I, M, I, A, I, M, I. We now have P, A, M, A, I, A, M, A. Everything's alternating with that ring finger. Now we could have gone P, M, I, M, A, M, I, M. That would be another way to create a variation. Or P, M, A, M, I, M, A, M. That'd be another way to create a variation as well. So just put this one on the board. Let's do that one with our chord progression 2 times per chord. So 2 measures per chord. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. We could do it one time per chord. 1 and 2 and ready and go and... just like that. And that works for anything in 4/4 time. Now, if we had 2 chords per bar, we could just take the first half and do it twice. One time for the first chord, one time for the second chord. Or we could bring in and have a thumb replace here, which actually creates the same thing. We could also do a thumb pinch with that index. So these are just a couple of examples of ways that we can take patterns already taught, which are kind of great parent patterns in a way, and create other fingerpicking patterns from those, sort of following the blueprint of the way they were created. And from that, you could end up with many, many, many great fingerpicking patterns beyond what I've exemplified here specifically. Now, I'll also mention, so that's in standard position I was playing those in. So index, grabbing that 3rd string, middle, grabbing that 2nd string, and ring, grabbing that top string. So for chords where we have the 5th string like as the bass, or the 6th string as the bass, we could actually move those inside. So for example, with this one, I could pluck the 4th string with my index, 3rd string with my middle, and ring, and 2nd string with my ring, and I'd have the inside sounds. And that works for C as well. It also works for A minor. If I wanted to use it for F, I'd have to use that full 6th string form. So there's other ways to get other sounds too. Remember, we can move string sets if we want to. Okay, I hope that helps. In the next lesson, we're going to build on this a little bit. I'm going to talk about taking these couple of patterns and playing with string set choices with them. So I'll see you in that next lesson. Keep having fun. Take care. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.